And here we are back to what problem are you solving? And so you have three amazing innovation coaches, well, at least two and a half. And my name's John. I'm here with Ty and Adam. And we're going to talk about all the fun stuff that has to do with innovation, innovation coaching, consulting, and primarily, what problem are you solving? So, Ty, what problem are you
Happy New
solving
Year,
this week?
guys.
Yeah.
Happy New Year. How you all doing? Outstanding.
Fantastic.
I went to Aruba. I ate myself silly. All
Nice.
you can eat. I told the boys they had two things they couldn't do. They couldn't get arrested. They couldn't die. After that, it was up to them. They're both over 18. So
I was going to say, what you're not supposed to increase or decrease the population.
The population. Exactly.
I never thought of it
Love
that
it.
way.
Exactly.
Yeah. How about you, Adam? How have you been?
I've been good. I've been good. I'm gonna save my words because I get fired up on these, as I find my energy.
You're just getting warmed up. Yeah. Very good. Awesome.
So you asked, how was your new break, John?
My break, my New Year's, all that was all well and good. You know, I have a large family, so that's a lot of work. You know, it's not additive; it's actually exponential, right? So it's not just 5 times; it's to the 5th power. So that makes it always fun. But Christmas was great, and now I'm dealing with as I wrote in a recent LinkedIn post, the joys of puppy ownership. So that is now the new experiment we're running. We're pivoting like crazy. Lots of failed experiments today, but we're learning. So that's all that matters, right?
So what problem are you solving?
Training the dog.
There you go.
Getting them housebroken.
We can get a 2-for-1 special.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So you asked, what problem am I solving? It's interesting that you would ask. I've been thinking a lot about how to help startups solve the right problem. I had a person I was working with recently who came to me with an idea, and I actually had to sign an NDA, and I looked at it. I was like, oh my God.
It must be really important.
This is like 10-year-old, and it's a patent, right? Patent pending. And this is like a 10-year-old idea. And it got me to thinking, like, how do I help them solve the problem of making sure that they understand customer need that is beyond just them? Because this person's like, I have the problem. Everybody must have this problem. I'm like, Oh my God, literally. And I know that Adam and I, when we really started thinking about trying to make this thing happen, it was like, can we get people to ask very simple, very straightforward, interrogative, like, what problem are you solving, and answer that? And Adam is quite, what's the word I'm looking for? Is quite articulate about. There's people out there that can't even answer just a simple problem, just a simple, like, what problem you're solving. And so
it's hard though.
I've been working at.
It is hard.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because I mean, John, you and I have been like, not just the 5 whys, but more interrogating that the people's thinking. You get to about 6 or 7, they're like, is this even a problem? Right. And so I think if the problem I'm trying to solve is helping startups that are actually looking for capital think about the problem before they go out and just expend all this energy. I mean, just mad, crazy energy doing, God's work. But Jesus, at the end of it, oh man, oof, it's tough. But that's what I've been working on over the last 6 weeks.
Yeah, that's certainly a tough challenge. It's so funny when I've coached some teams that have this great idea, or I have this problem, so then therefore everyone has this problem approach. I like to remind them that that's a single data point. You have a data point of 1, right? So unless your market size is 1, I think you need to do more research. I think you need to get out and do more customer discovery.
Yeah.
Find your tribe, find that community, find the community that has that problem. But right now, you've only got a single data point, and that's not enough to waste time and effort building.
Yeah. Agreed.
And even the you that has the problem. First of all, I mean, two things. First of all,
Yeah.
this came up literally this afternoon. So you'll meet Craig, or Craig will be on the show, and Craig and
Mhm.
Wendy and Brandy. And we do this with early stage founders who are looking for funding. And we had this exact conversation this afternoon. But I think it's twofold there. So first of all, going from, it doesn't have to be 1,000, going from an N of 1 to an N of 5 even is reasonable, right? It's that's where we start talking about, like, not challenging people or telling them they're wrong or they don't know what they're talking about. But yeah, go find 5. But then even as the N of 1, like, would you pay to solve the problem? Would you go out of your way to solve the problem? Do you really need an app to solve? Like, even disproving yourself, which is, it's semantic and it's easier for us to observe. And that wouldn't be my first sort of judo move with an entrepreneur that I was really trying to teach. But like, my first move would be getting those 5 others like you to acknowledge the problem. But it is interesting with some advanced moves where you'd be like, if you could figure out how to then make them not just the person with the problem, but the actual customer in the true sense of the word. And it's like, they wouldn't even pay for a solution. They certainly wouldn't like invest the kind of stuff that they're asking other customers to invest in. So it's pretty interesting. But
Let me ask you a question.
You have more specific stuff you want to talk about.
But let me ask you, before we go there, I want to ask you a question, Adam, about in this case, and I love this idea of starting with John, get your data point of 1, go out and find others. Adam, you extend that. Well, you don't have to find 1,000, but can you find 5 people who have a very similar problem and you get them directed there? And then moving it to, you have the problem, but do you have a customer for the solution to your problem? I think is another way that I had not thought about it. I don't want to make it sound like, oh my God, it was a revelation, but I like the way that you put that. If you have the problem, you found 5 people, can you convert those 5 people from 5 people with a problem to 5 people that could be customers? That is cool. That's very, very cool, because I think that what you are all articulating there is that you've unpacked what problem you're solving, for whom, to do what. Like, you're moving up the value proposition, the customer problem fit versus just a problem customer, however you want to say it, which I really like, and I'm actually going to steal that. Sorry.
Every time we come back to this, it's a version of, they have the problem, they know they have the problem, they're actively trying to solve it, or they're dissatisfied with the recency of a solution and they're willing to pay for or do something of value in exchange for this. I mean, that I'm locked in on that's the answer for sort of early stage founders looking to raise money and to do something differently. Like, that's the curriculum. Like, that's it. There's other variations on a theme, but yeah, that's it. You can call it different things. And a lot of smart people have done a lot of good work on it. It's really the only 4 questions that matter.
So what I'm hearing is you're trying to find the way to relieve the pain that they might have, or create some gain such that they'll actually convert to moving from a nice to have to, like, I want you to solve this for me and I'm willing to exchange some value of some kind in order to do that. That's what I'm hearing.
Even pains and gains we can get into. We can do a whole other, yeah. Like,
Oh yeah, that's.
Will they acknowledge? Do they acknowledge? They acknowledge the pain that they're in, that you think that they're in, and then are they willing to do anything differently?
Mm-hmm.
Anything.
Ooh, that is cool. That's cool. Right? That's cool. Acknowledging the pain in, and how, just for the love of God, make it go away.
Right.
Right. What's your for the love of God moment?
Right. That's why the bottles of water are like $10 in the amusement parks in the middle of summer, right? It's just the same water that you can get out the tap, but it's nice and cold and it's right there, right behind the glass. So just swipe your credit card, you'll be good to go.
Twist on, twist off. I can carry it around with me and it doesn't
Right.
pour out. And I think if we get people to understand that problem, like you're solving the simple things. I think most times, I don't know, Adam, in your experience working with your founders, that they think the problem needs to be the solution needs to be super exquisite when it could just be very, very simple. Just make that thing stop.
Yeah. Scope creep, feature creep. Yeah.
But wouldn't it be cool if I could do that? No, I get it, but I don't need
No.
that other thing. I need that thing to stop. But it's not cool. I spent 10 years in college learning how to do.
Can we sprinkle some AI on it? AI bottles of water.
Oh, I'm about, if I could reach through and kick you in the shins about this AI thing.
Ow, what was that?
Oh my God. It's
How much would
driving
you
me
pay to be
nuts.
able to kick him through the? How much would
Yeah.
you pay to be able to press a button and be able to kick him in the shit?
Boom. Exactly.
I bet Jeremiah could build something like that.
That's right.
With an Arduino and a kick drum, and thing would work in less than a half an hour.
Build an MVP.
Well, here's what's funny. A guy that I had been working with called him up and said, "Hey, could you build this thing for me?" And Jay was like, "They already have that. Why would you want to build something that's already exists?" Why? And I know this guy, because it's cool. Right? Like, dude, cool. You building the data, the back-end data repository, the back-end algorithms, stick with that. Nobody gives a crap about your cool thing, especially when you're gonna have to spend a ton of money to get it integrated on somebody else's platform, when you could just go to them and say, "Hey, listen, I got this thing. Let's work a deal." I think the other part problem that I try to solve is the feasibility problem, the technical risk problem. Like, how much are you willing to throw at this technically, not financially, but technically, to go into so much technical debt that you ruin your idea? Because somebody already built it, and who cares? If you could partner, if you could collaborate, make what's that thing we used to call them, John? Competimate, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Create a competimate situation. Excuse me, do that until you get enough money that you can throw into $10 million into your R&D backlog or R&D shop. Stop it. Go with what you know. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. It's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, that reminds me. So again, building something for building's sake. That is something I wanted to talk about tonight too, which it's a good segue. So coming out for pre-order now, you can get by, I think be delivered by February 2nd, Groundhog Day. You got this thing, the Apple Vision Pro is coming out. So finally, Apple's diving into the VR, AR, some sort of headset in immersive environment. And man, they're taking a huge risk on this because, I mean, not only is it really uncharted waters for Apple itself, right? But you got alternatives. You got like Meta Quest and all that's out there. But they're going all in. Like the prices on these things are insane. You can load up with a 1 terabyte model for $38.99, $3,899. I'm not. I'll tell you that.
I was wondering if you were. I know you're a gadget guy. I was God
I'm a gadget guy.
Although I do know that you're an Android dude.
hey, this is some cool tech, but it's not $38.99 cool enough. So I'd rather keep that $38.99 in my wallet. But this is actually part of the exercise here, because like, what problem are they trying to solve by introducing an entirely new platform, right? That's what they're trying to do. But VR adoption has been very slow. So, right, it's not like they're taking the wheel and making it better. They're already taking a platform and trying to sprinkle some Apple magic on it in the hopes that they're going to capture some new market or some new platform. And it's such an untested hypothesis that they are going all in on. What are your thoughts on that, Adam?
Well, first of all, so many. A couple of things. First of all, like, what is it? What are they comparing against? So what's the alternative? I think is interesting. So just on price, I think they're like, when I first saw this, if you're comparing it to a Chromebook, it's one thing. If you're comparing it to, if you're going to watch movies by yourself, VR, because I'm assuming this isn't good for group, but if you're replacing a $2,000 screen, giant screen or projector, and it has the hardware of a full Apple, and that people love Apple, so I want to get into the creating a market question, but in terms of just the price, this may fail. I don't think it's going to fail because of price, right? Like there's enough people out. We talk like Apple is the value brand, and there were people paying, the whole thing about no one's going to pay $1,000 for a phone, and people did, right?
And they did.
So no one's going to pay $2,000 like this. So I think a lot of the de-risking and the, we talk about desirability and feasibility, but in the viability, Apple's done a ton of de-risking there. In the feasibility, obviously they're doing some stuff, like you said, is this, like Musk wasn't building, I forgot what the story was, but he wasn't building cars. He was building a platform to get to Mars, and nobody was playing 3D chess. Like, so I don't know. On the feasibility side, like, is this just, maybe VR is slow, but maybe it is a foregone conclusion, just like Ty's tired of hearing about AI, but that's also a foregone conclusion. And it's going to be the people that are really not just remixing AI, but building their own LLMs are the ones that are going to win. And people in the know seem to understand that. And so, again, like maybe you just have to own your hardware or some deliveries. Like, I don't know, and I know enough about some of those early stage values, but I don't know these true markets that way. But It sounds like, they have to figure out. It seems like a big bet to us, but someone has to figure out the form factor. And it's not. People seem to understand it's not on our phones anymore. So, and if it's not just a screen that you can't move, like I'm guilty. Like I try to be all over the house with this podcast. That would be a perfect. I don't know how the video inbound works, but as far as me consuming this conversation, that would be a perfect solution. I don't know if it's worth $4,000 for me, but it definitely solves mobility problems and VR problems and AR problems, and then on the desirability, it goes beyond the classic Apple early adopter that's just going to wait online. Like it's not just to get a cool new gadget. It does have to solve a problem. But I do think, I'm curious to follow the story and maybe, hold ourselves accountable, like individual gamers that are already spending. I don't know what it costs these days. Again, shout out to Jeremiah. Like, what are they spending on, the seat and the audio and the memory card? Like, gamers are spending a lot of money, or esports. Like, I don't know exactly who they picked. Can we pull up anything like these real podcast folks that are pulling up data in real time, like, or we could save it. But I don't think it's price that's their biggest risk, or the viability. I don't think it's even this feasibility risk. Yeah, sure, there's some desirability. To us, seems like Google Glass 2.0, and that was 10 full years ago probably. But I went to a kids park. It's supposed to be a trampoline park, and they've got VR games there now. You go to any exhibition, you go, and people are trainings are, it's not just games, trainings, continuing education, operation, educate. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's going to be, and so I just wonder if everything seems like it's going slow until big bang adoption, and I wonder if it's not going slow. If it's at a tipping point, Apple knows it. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Well,
We'll
Yeah,
know in
and
6 months.
well, that's the thing too, right? So they're going to ship these things out by February 2nd, so they'll be in the hands of those early adopters. I'm already hearing like whispers and rumors of like app developers that are waiting and seeing, right? That they're not just instantly converting apps to this new platform. And it's kind of a shame because it's like that was the big thing when phones came out. Like, well, what's the killer app, right? And the killer app in our language is what is that software application that can actually solve a problem for the user, right? So much that they'll use it on a regular basis.
What if this is a grand experiment? Because when you first opened it up, it said free yourself from, or something about spatial computing. What if the experiment is right in front of us, and it's not the coolness, but it's spatial computing? And the bet that, yep, welcome to the era of spatial computing, that what they're developing is, and I'm going to go back to our old days, John, geospatial, as in locked to location, right? I don't know if you all saw, there's this company out right now, that little cube that does AI, right? You can tap on it, you can make calls, you can do all this other stuff, that you're now freed from location, even the cell phone as a location, right? And I'm wondering, in their experiment, is how will people engage with information when they don't have to sit anymore? And I'm not talking about sit, and even sit, and because this cell phone is a bounded location, right? It's with you, and it's bounded by form factor, to your point, Adam, of maybe 7 inches across. Because when you use a the other form factor was they try to do was the iPad. And kind of, have you seen people take movies with iPads? That's like old folks, right? Like the 60-year-old. Like my dad takes pictures with iPads. He's 80, exactly. He's 80 something years old. So even this form factor, that may be what Google Glass didn't get right, that they're trying to get, and it looks dumb. You got, like you said, John, you got ski glasses on, transparent ski glasses that you can see. Because my kid has Oculus, and he plays games and he watches movies, so he's freed a bit, but he still has to do this because it said with tapping your fingers with your eyes and your voice. And so maybe what we're seeing is, do you remember Owlet Baby Monitor? Like, what's the price dynamic curve of what they're trying to get? Navigate simply using your eyes, hands, and voice. What's the price dynamic curve that people would be willing to pay, right? What problem they're solving, that people would be willing to pay to be freed from location to compute?
Mm-hmm.
And that's walking, because if you think about it, how many people we've seen the videos, they tap and fall into water fountains,
right? Because they're texting and walking. Well, and to exactly. I like how you that brings me back to a really good point you're making of, it's not just pains and gains, but it's also context. And I try to hit that hard on people as well, because you may not use it in a business meeting, but hey, it would be great if I could use it on the airplane watching a movie on a big screen, right? In my own personal bubble, right? So it's context specific. So we're talking spatial, we're talking about solving a pain, but not always in the same way or in the same location.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that that I try to help teams out with, right? So it's not just, do you have this pain? People context switch multiple times a day, right? Whether I'm trying to make sure I take the dog out every hour, right? Or whether I'm running a podcast, or whether I'm doing research, that I'm in different modes. I'm a different John in different phases and different time frames. So the John that's walking the dog doesn't want to be distracted with technology. He wants to actually get the dog to do his business. Whereas, when I'm free from that, and I can focus on something else. And so I'm going to have different needs at that time.
So this brings me to a conversation I had with the founder about a week ago now, where we were talking about, and John, this will make sense to you, the 4D synoptic model. Remember, in geospatial terms, for those that are listening, it's XYZ plus time, right? That's how you found yourself in the world. I'm somewhere at some point. But with the advent of the cyber, of the dislocated, the geospatially dislocated, it's now cyber mediated. So now it's 5G. Lat long XYZ plus time plus where I am in at any point in the cyber world, right? Because where I am here, I could also be there, right? In the fourth dimension. But you also bring up so if that's the case, how do people find themselves in time and cyberspace? Because I am now just not tied to a time zone. I am now 24/7 around the world. I am now Apple saying I am releasing myself from anchored computing space to spatially enabled computing space. But you just brought up a sixth dimension of this, and that's context. Right.
Yeah, so even if I'm plugged in 24/7, my context could be different, will be different.
Exactly. And so I'm wondering if we are tapping into something and a problem to be solved. This is kind of philosophical, but I think lean startup, this whole idea of just the question is a philosophical question, right? It's just not a practical question, what problem you're solving. It really is a philosophical question. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what the F are you really doing? And why are you doing it? That by bringing up these 6 dimensions, context, XYZ time, and then this cyber, this non-anchored, geospatial anchored space, right? I'm not anchored to the world. I'm on 24/7, and I could be anchored any. I'll last on this. Think about how you do your what are those things when like cyber goes? Like, so I bounce my signal so people can't find me, right? What do they call that? Here goes my old man stuff. Where so people can't track me. I bounce my signal all over the world.
Right.
Who knows where I'm at? My internet is now bounced. No. It's like where my internet is bouncing through Brazil and it bounced to Germany, and then I get it. So you can't trace me, right? What is it? It's a cyber protection, whatever they call it. Right. John, help me out. You know that.
I know what you mean.
But it changes the conversation about what problem we're solving. It really does. It really does, because we're on 24/7 and we're all over the place at one time. Sorry for the philosophy, but
I like
that's how it's rolling around in my head.
So how do you create a market, Adam, doing that?
So I don't know. I think there's a couple questions here. I think Apple doing this is fundamentally different than a startup doing it, right? So I think that's just the first thing to acknowledge. Like, if you were a VC fund, like if you were literally just creating this one product, you might fail, right? Like that is I don't know if it's a feature, but it's definitely not a company first.
Sure.
I mean, that was the other thing I was going to say. Can we pull it up in real time? Like, is anyone working on Oculus was a startup first, right? But then I think, so that's one thing that I don't know the answer to, but I think it's an interesting question. But then, I think it goes back to who are they aiming at? What are they replacing? Like, what is the job to be done? Like, if you're going after gamers,
right,
that's how you create a market, right? Like, if you're going after cinephiles, right? Like, that's movie lovers.
It kind of, I think I'm coining a new term here, right? So you've got the killer app in the iPhone age, but what if there was killer context? Like, what is that killer context that they're really trying to target?
Yeah, it's going to be something so obvious, like on an airplane, there's just nothing, like you don't even need first class or on a train, or just maybe walking. Walking's probably not, but although like the look to me again, like the price I don't think is going to be is the riskiest thing. The look is, there's definitely going to be as many people that think it's weird as that think it's cool. And if the function, form follows function or fashion follows form or whatever it is, that's not going to be, the killer here, especially if it works, right? So,
Right.
especially if you're home using it by yourself. Like, so like that, that's an obvious one. But
Yep.
yeah, I think this is just, I don't necessarily think of this I think there are other conversations to be had about where, we talk about what problem are you solving and for whom, and you do need to start with a beachhead market. Someone this afternoon on that same call I mentioned, I've heard all of those little metaphors. He talked about the gravel and the snow because it was from Calgary. So it was like, how do you get traction and, instead of a beachhead market or just early adopters, he was literally calling it the gravel and the snow, which I thought was interesting and context
Interesting. Yeah.
driven. But yeah, I think in this case, I actually don't think that maybe they're building their fast followers or their mainstream and rebuilding and reteaching people how to consume content. But I think there's enough. Yeah, it'd be fine. We can brainstorm or we can move on. But I think gamers, I think people that just love movies that are watching them by themselves, I think the world is sick of this problem. I don't know if it's worth $4,000 per person, but I don't think that this is as crazy an idea that like needs an entire market recreation or shift. I think that there's enough people that see the value in either just a bigger screen, or freeing themselves from an annoying phone. And it's not just a phone, and it's not just a computer. It's like this next wave of adoption of technology with wearables and watch. I don't know. I think I don't want to take the wind out of yourselves on the argument. To me, that there are arguments for like, and we can even come up with a couple now. But this, I don't think this is as much of a leap of like totally re-educating or recreating a market. I think, yeah, I've said it. I think there's gamers out there that are ready to do it. There's design, maybe coders or design people that are designing things, or interior designer that are working on code or AI. There's some context, and I'm assuming, maybe we can get that part we've been talking about. Guess I'm sure they've done something. Like, it's easy to be like, oh, they just have a big market and they're guessing. They're not guessing at this. Like they've done. Apple's not stupid. Like they may do things differently, or there's only so many like things that you can just declare, okay, we're just raising the price and creating a new vertical, and our brand is so loyal they'll try anything. Like that doesn't really work.
Yeah. What I really want to know is, can you put AI on it?
Stop
right,
Ty? So I would assume that it's already there, but I think that you're onto something, Adam, in terms of this beachhead or traction gravel. I learned something from a mutual friend of ours, Dr. Jen, and she was working on her deck. And by the way, her business. And by the way, she's about to pop. She's on her way to do some really interesting stuff in the next couple of months. But we were talking about her app, and John, this app is a group movement. It's not about travel per se, like Expedia. She's like, I don't even want to get in that because that market's saturated. But what happens once people get where they're supposed to go? How do you move them from location to location that's not driven by spreadsheets and WhatsApp and texts and blah blah blah? She's figured out something. I think it's pretty cool. It's not. I asked her, "Is this patentable?" She's like, "No, it's not patentable." But the idea is that kind of like people. She shows it to people. They go, "Oh my god, this is awesome." And she taught me something that I had not thought about. I'm going to go back to Adam, $3,900. And John, your conversation, every market that we know, that when you build markets, particularly for a thing, it's a unit economics issue, right?
Yes.
I'm building on unit economics. How many of these things can I sell to prove that my thing is worth it, that it goes from break even to X amount of things that come out versus how much it costs me to build the damn thing, right? And so maybe part of the problem that they're trying to solve in their campaign to get this thing off the ground is a unit economics issue. But it comes down to this idea of beachhead markets. So we know the 3 levels of market analysis: TAM, SAM, SOM, right? Total addressable, service attainable, service. What's the SOM stand for? I always get the SAM and the SOM. I always get the language best. But basically, your SOM is supposed to be your minimum, your least, or your focused part of your market that you're going after, your obtainable market. But what I learned from her was maybe there's another one. They call it the I-Core program. What's your beachhead? And I didn't understand it until she said something about beachhead. So the one that she's going after, thank you, service available and service obtainable, right? Appreciate it. Thank you, John. But inside that SOM, there's a unit economics play of your beachhead. How many of these things can I sell to a specific problem owner, somebody who I think needs what I have? Can I sell it to them? Is
that you can
gamers?
Realistically capture? That's what I like.
Right.
I like that word choice there.
I'm talking about even deeper than that, because you're going after a target. You're going after a target to see if your unit economics are real. But the 3 of us would go, great, what's your hypothesis associated with any one of these 3? And if it's a beachhead, what you better be really freaking specific about that hypothesis. Because if you can't get over that, don't even go anywhere else on your SOM, much less how you're going to get to a $1 billion. Because I don't know about you, Adam, but everybody I talk to that's that's not super deep tech, that isn't patient capital, like, how quickly can we go unicorn on this? How quickly can this thing go to $1 billion?
Wow.
Right. John, you and I are like, that's just what?
Yeah.
Coming out of the government. But Adam much longer than me. I'm like, yeah, I'm hearing like, yeah, we need to get to $1 billion like quick. Because if not, I'm not funding you because the money's damn tight.
Wow.
Yeah, John, like, can we get to $1 billion in 3 years? And if you can't, well, we'll give you a little bit of money.
That's wild.
So what do they project? Let's have some fun with this in real, and then we'll go back and look at who is it? Who are they aiming at? Are they aiming at gamers? How many do they think they're going to sell? Like, what, they're a public company, they're going to make projections on this. What's their hypothesis? It's not just a project. How many do they believe they're going to sell this year? Whether it's some expert on the side or Apple themselves. I'm sure Apple has their own. Maybe they're not public yet, but I'm sure they have projections.
So, number of iPhone users, more than 1 billion active iPhone users globally. In the US,
and so while you find this, there's also there's the 3 engines of growth, but then I remember there was this other little meme kind of academic thing of like how you acquired customers. And it was like, so Apple, basically everyone that's on there, they own, their
the lock-in.
Yeah. So there's obviously, that sort of goes back to my point before about a startup doing this versus ads, not just because they're corporate.
Sure.
They have obviously a built-in platform to launch and test. And, I'd be curious what percentage, of their market cap they're risking here. Let's see, what was the R&D? Like, what was, maybe it's much higher or lower than, how much did they invest? How much did they invest in this?
I would submit to you. So you said these things are going to start shipping, interestingly enough, on Groundhog Day, which I thought was funny from the very beginning when you said it, right? So they're going to $500 million in research in the last 5 years, and 20 billion in, 100 billion, excuse me.
But at least 20 billion to go into the actual new device. So if it cost 20 billion to make the first unit, what would it cost to make the second? That's a lot of R&D.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's a big number.
That's a bigger number than I thought.
That's a huge bet.
It's a huge bet.
Because if you think about the concept of what problem you're solving, that is your articulation of what you think your problem and the bets that you're going to associate with solving that problem. Right? That's Adam, when you and I work with people, like, okay, so what are your bets? Some of them can be financial bets, some of them could process bets, research bets, bets, do that bet versus not do that bet. Just want you to focus on what kind of questions that you do in customer discovery bets. That's a big bet.
But when your market cap is 3 trillion, it doesn't seem that big.
No, I get you, but
Still, someone's going to get fired if it flops. That's all I got to say.
But 100 billion over 5 years and 5,000 patents out of this. That's a huge number of patents in 5 years.
For, I wouldn't say commodity, but, VR, AR headsets, stereoscopic devices have been around for decades.
So I have one, and this is just with this. What's third generation look like? Because Apple, what you see now is like there's another 3 generations that have already been planned.
They're already working on the Vision Pro 3, exactly.
Right.
But is that even true? Is that, I don't know, like that's what we've become. The iPhone's been pretty locked in. Maybe that paradigm is not true anymore. Maybe they're investing in $100 billion, and that like first people used to say like measure twice, cut once, and then lean guys like us would be like, well, kind of iterating is okay. Like talk about context. I'd be surprised if this is not just a prototype that they're like, we all use the iPod as an example of something that came out without radio and came out with the minimum, like as a classic MVP. Mm-hmm. I don't think this is just like an MVP in the sense of something that they're throwing out to validate.
I'm not suggesting that
wear this. Go ahead.
I'm not suggesting that they're throwing it out as a classic MVP. I think it is a smart way to test unit economics to see where the market's ready, if the market's ready for adoption. Right. So somewhere in there, like, if we can get away with selling 10,000 of these jokers at $3,900 a pop, we killing it. We're killing. I know the number's going to be higher than that.
Yeah,
we're killing it. Oh, we can go with that other thing, because you think about Google Glass, everybody's like, oh my God. Or some of the stuff that they were doing with the smart glasses that would project the PDF as you're working on your car.
Right.
Those things still exist. I mean, they haven't gone away. I've seen commercials as around Christmas. Some manufacturing, as a manufacturing association, like, hey, we can help you become the next worker of the future. And they got these smart glass things that help people. You can do micro welding, so you don't even have to be like getting burnt with these micro welds. You can learn how to do it with smart glass as you're doing it. Nice. And it'll help you do that, right? And so maybe they've taken the market that's already there in the industrial side and moved it, to your point, Adam, to the entertainment side and testing it at $4,000 a pop. I'm not getting one. If my kid wants one, well, I guess you better get to work, sucker, because I'm not buying it. I'm just saying.
You don't have that much of a pain that you're willing to fork over $4,000 for Apple to solve it for you.
Hey, look. I'm good, baby. I'm good. I'm not feeling a thing.
Well, let's see. Are they? How many Oculuses? Is it just? Are they just going head to head with Oculus and trying to beat them? Are they replacing iPad? Tablets? Or medical schools buying every last one? Like, is it that? Or like you said, welding application, like or things where. Yeah, I don't know.
It would be interesting, John, to see the military application of something like this.
Oh, again, AR, VR has great, military or anything where you need to get your hands dirty, but you need information while you're getting your hands dirty. Right? I saw a good TikTok recently of a guy who was actually doing car repair. So he's literally under the hood, but wearing this thing, and while he's got his hands full of grease, he's got the manual for the parts up on the side, and he's got a YouTube video playing of how to fix it. And he just all he has to do is just look in the engine and just look up and follow along, and then get back down, so he doesn't have to turn pages and get grease all over his laptop. It's there, right? So maybe that's the killer context.
So
I think it's close.
have-
I think it doesn't sound like some farming application people in the field. And I remember years ago, people testing specific like plot analysis, and
Right.
their hands are dirty and tool. And yeah. And the one you just described, like, send in the comments. What do you think?
There you go.
I just wanted to say that. What's the killer?
we are so smart. We think we know what we're talking about. Let us know
That's
that we're
right.
good.
That's right. Give us validation. And on that note, we're at time, so let's wrap it up. Final thoughts from Adam on tonight.
Oh, and
Topic?
who do you want to get here, Adam? Who are you gonna try to get, Adam?
Oh, look, you're trying to bait him early.
That's right.
You
What trying to get?
Who you gonna invite, Adam? Who you gonna bring on online?
He's just ignore the guy. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Good fellow. Is this a Godfather reference?
That's right.
What was that reference anyway? What scene was that? I gotta go rewatch it.
I've never. You know what? Just real quick, John. Just indulge me. That I know we're on time. I've never watched The Godfather. Any of them.
Sounds like you got homework.
I know what you're doing this weekend.
Yeah, seriously.
Nope. So I'm just messing with you, Adam. Any thoughts? I'm sorry. What are your thoughts?
Thoughts on this week's topic?
Is it? Yeah, I mean, I go back and forth. We'll keep it to the title. What is it? Solving the problem of a small screen, or is there something just so much bigger than that?
Nice, love it. Ty, what are your thoughts?
I think that we're on to something about problem to be solved that isn't just directly associated with the customer. There are contextual problems to be solved. There are business problems. There are market problems to be solved. But I think it all goes together. We would traditionally call this feasible, viable, desirable, and I think in some ways adaptable. What are those challenges? That's it.
Awesome. Yeah, and for me, one thing that comes to mind, I'm looking at this news article from December of 2023. VR market keeps shrinking even as Meta pours billions of dollars a quarter into the metaverse, right? So the sale of the VR headsets have been declining even during the holiday season, right? So we try to look for an analogous comparison with 5,000 patents and roughly $20 billion worth of investment. They've got to know some other context, some other problem that they've solved. And so, because otherwise, if they're just going to be a competitor to the MetaQuest, good luck. But I think, like you said, time will tell. There's going to be a lot of experimentation in the beginning because, again, there weren't many apps when the iPhone came out. But once we figure out what use cases people are going to use it for, I think that will open up actually brand new avenues for app developers and entrepreneurs to take advantage of that.
I wonder how the hype cycle fits into this, where it's like it's the part that's shrinking is the part that would have existed had it not been for the overhyped beginning, but then the true actual the real demand use case, even though it's smaller, is actually growing, and that's the predictable part of this that someone knows. It's like, yeah, the hype cycle is the hype cycle, but there's some piece of that inside that's growing, and it's not just the number of headsets, but the market itself, the demand. Like there's some, to go back to the Somme or the beachhead that Ty was talking about, like that piece, I'm sure of it. Someone knows, or is at least pretty confident that piece is growing, regardless of like the excess, bubbly, frothy.
What's on the surface? What's the undercurrent?
Yeah, what's growing? There's something growing underneath there that someone knows is going to replace screens.
We'll find out soon. All right. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.
See you, gents. Thank you. Woo.